Hello, everyone. I just wanted to ramble for a minute about the DACA situation as it stands, at least as far as the time of this recording. So, DACA, or the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, and this is just a very rough capsule summary. There are more details to it, but I'm just going to work my way to my point as quickly as I can. This was a program that was instituted in the Obama administration by way of an executive order. Now, an executive order is essentially just something the president can say happens without having to go through Congress, without having to have a vote on it. Just say, ta da, I'm the president, and I say this should be a new aspect of law. Now, this is a power that's been around for quite some time in various forms, but it has been leveraged most mightily over the course of both the Bush administrations, the two, I mean, I guess the whole of the Obama administration, and now the Trump administration. It is, in basic terms, a presidential fiat. I say this is so, therefore it is so. It is outside the legislature, and it is not democratic, in my opinion, and in many other people's opinions. So anyway, Obama issued this new law, effectively, that said that if you are the child of illegal immigrants and you were brought to this country when you were a child, and you had no choice in the matter, you were given certain abilities to earn a work permit and potentially work your way towards becoming a resident while on your way to becoming a citizen. Now, on principle, I don't necessarily disagree with the spirit of the program. I think if you are brought here when you are a child and you had no say in the matter, you did not knowingly break the law, you did not knowingly cross the border in violation of the law, that certain dispensation makes sense and seems fair to me. But that's beside the point. The implementation of the program was outside the realm of the democratic process, and that is my problem. Even if I agree with something, that's not the point. The ability of a president to just say, this is the way things are, without going through the democratic process, is not right, and it's imbalanced. That's why we have the whole checks and balances thing, so we have a slow, methodical and thoughtful adoption of new laws or new policies that affect people like this, especially when it deals with the Constitution and federal law. So, in a way, I was happy to hear earlier this year and during Trump's campaign that he had said he was going to get rid of DACA. Now, I knew that the only way he could do this was by using the very power that Obama used to abuse the law. But at the time, and up until a couple of days ago, I thought, well, sometimes you need to use a dragon bone to slay a dragon, so to speak. So I thought, all right, good. And on Tuesday of this week, he seemingly did that. He said, DACA will end in 6 months. This 6-month period is to give Congress the time they need to do their job and vote on something on the floor. Because there has been something sitting out there for the last several years called the DREAM Act, which is effectively DACA, but it is a piece of legislation that could and should go to the floor of Congress and be voted on and go through the same process as any other legislative item and work its way up to the president's desk for signing. Now, up until Tuesday night, I thought, I don't like the fact that this power still exists, this executive order power. I don't like the fact that Trump has used it, or that Obama has used it, or that Bush has used it. Whatever the reasons, it should not be. But in this isolated case, at least this seems like a little bit of three-dimensional chess. Trump uses the executive order power to undo an abuse of power undertaken by Obama, but at the same time forces the issue to go to the legislature, which it should have in the first place. And so he effectively made an ultimatum. He said, this is going to go away unless you do your job and make it legal. And I thought, great. Of all the things that Trump has done thus far, which I have disagreed with in small or large part, and this hasn't been everything, but a lot of things, or the way that he's handled himself, I thought this is one instance where he's playing the power struggle in its correct way, as it stands at least. I mean, if executive orders are going to sit here for the time being, one way to try to undo them is to take it away as easily as it was conjured into existence, but then put pressure on the people whose job it is to do this kind of stuff to do it or look bad in the process. Because then Trump put the onus on Congress to, quote unquote, save the dreamers. But what does he do within, I don't even know if it was less than 12 hours after making this announcement? He says that he will revisit DACA in 6 months if they don't act. Okay, so you had a policy that was instituted by executive order. You have an announcement saying, by executive order, effectively, I will delete this policy unless you, Congress, act. I'm giving you an ultimatum. But if you don't do your jobs, I'll revisit it. What does revisiting it mean? I mean, he's going to revisit it in the sense of he's not going to get rid of it. He's going to alter it himself. What's the threat? Basically, all he has done is given Congress every reason to kick the can down the road even further. It was seemingly quite a coup of political manipulation to say, do your jobs or it's going to look like you guys dropped the ball. And of course, with elections coming up, what diehard Republican wants to vote yes on an immigration bill that would benefit illegal immigrants? And so it's gone. The ultimatum is gone. He's taken all the power out of the way. There's a thing called moral hazard. This is a variant of that. Moral hazard says, if you bail someone out of doing a bad thing over and over and over again, then they have less and less incentive to change their ways or take responsibility for their own actions. Congress should have done something about this issue, either voted up, down, or otherwise on this, years ago. But they haven't had to, because Obama decided by executive order to just sort of, for lack of a better phrase, trump the process and just move on with what he wanted to do without having to go through Congress. Trump seemed to be reversing that, but now he's completely undone it by saying, well, I'll revisit it in 6 months, which can only mean if you guys don't vote on the thing that I'm canceling, I'm in some way, in whole or in part, not going to cancel it. It took all the respect I had for Trump prior to that moment away. Holding Congress's feet to the fire was a good move. It was a good move, even though people were saying, oh, he's ending DACA. He's like, no. He is ending DACA, but he's making the move to make it permanent legally. Can you people not see that? But now it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They could dither, they could twiddle their thumbs for 6 months and leave it to someone else so that they don't have to be on the record. I'm talking about Congress. The individual members of Congress do not have to be on the record voting yes or no to this legislation and putting themselves in the crosshairs of, the next campaign they have to go through. Because if you're a diehard Republican and you said yes, that is a lever that someone opposing you in your next campaign can use against you, etc. I've talked about this on Lords of the Night several times. The executive order power is something that I fundamentally abhor. It is such a contradiction of what our democratic process should be. Should the president have the ability to just issue a command, effectively, a royal fiat that changes law or does the kind of thing that Congress should do to legislate from the executive? No. If executive orders exist, they should be, I can imagine I can imagine a situation, an emergency, a thing needs to be done now that would otherwise require Congress's approval, but, a natural disaster or an outbreak of plague or something. I mean, we already have mechanisms in place for this kind of stuff. So if you're going to have an executive order for anything outside of an act of war or an act of, dire emergency, either there has to be such minute restrictions on when you can use such a thing, or it should not exist at all. But like I said on the stream the other night, the executive order power is like the One Ring from The Lord of the Rings. It is something that gives you absolute control on the whim of an individual. And every president coming in takes a look at this ring sitting on the table. If you put this on, you can have anything you want done immediately because you are the president. And every president coming in has to look at this and go like, well, even if it's bad, would I want to get rid of it? Because that is a power I have. Why would I want to roll that back? Why would I want to take steps to get rid of that? Because I might need it. Or I might want it. It's seductive, and it is total power, and it is completely wrong. But right now, it is the way it is, and the likelihood of anybody coming into the office, even with the best of intentions, would roll that back is pretty much zip, because anybody coming in, as Monkey has pointed out before, why would they? They wouldn't. They might need it, So, anyway, that's my little rant on that and DACA and everything else. I don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now, and the way Trump's acting, I don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, but that's the way things stand at the moment. Those are my thoughts, and as always, thank you for listening.